Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Wild's the Dome TV. Today, I have a very special guest, a friend of the show, writer, educator, organizer, somebody who is shown and proved she's down for our people and down for the cause. And she's here to continue to, educate us and have great discussions that can lead to more research. So we always appreciate whenever she comes on. Dr. Kimya Dennis, thank you so much for joining Wazza Dome TV.
Well, always thank you. You're so intelligent
It's
and so
nah, that's you.
intellectual. I'm trying to get on your
Nah,
level.
that's you.
That
That's
is.
you. I'm trying to get on your level, but again, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you on. And whenever we were talking offline about um the topic of the show, it really struck me as obviously something very important. And um, whenever we're talking about research and verification of sources, verifying sources, and holding people accountable that are in positions of power, whether it be politicians or professors or whatever, right? Uh, Before we go into the specifics, what kind of made you want to have this build? Because it's extremely important, but I just wanted to know.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I am a theorist, so I do specialize in theory. I specialize in qualitative research, but I also am trained in quantitative. That's my background is quantitative, but I do mostly qualitative. But theory is really big for me. So I teach sociological theory and criminological, criminal justice theory. And I remember because I saw a comment in response to one of your amazing, you always do amazing
Well,
shows
thank
and
you.
interviews. So one of the comments was regarding Ivan Van Sertima and calling the people who had false interpretations of his book, saying that they were basically stupid.
Mm,
So this is where I want our people to understand research
hmm
and understand this is where the onus is on theorists, researchers, and educators, because I know and you know that he knew his followers had some extremist views on both sides.
Yeah.
One side pretended that they were indigenous to the Western Hemisphere. The other side pretended that Africans, we're talking about the original Africans, created everything around the world.
Right, 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 right,
He
right.
knew that he had a bestseller book in 1976 because of those extreme sides were most of his buyers.
Hmm
Most of his buyers were not historians, were not anthropologists, were not sociologists,
hmm
were not people who actually do reading,
hmm
and not even people who watch National Geographic. That was also before a time where BET News was showing a lot of this information. Tony Brown's Journal, who I'm a
Yeah.
huge supporter of Tony Brown,
hmm
but again, they were still trying to understand what are our origins, what's our history.
hmm
So he presented a book. He did a lot of presentations.
hmm
He had a bestseller, but he knew that his bestseller was because false interpretations from his own people.
hmm
And he did not respond to that
mm
because that would mess up the bestseller ranking.
hmm hmm
And it would mess up his fan base. And that's just one thing we have to be factual about theorists, researchers, and educators. The onus is on us that if we know our own people, and including our students, if we know they're misinterpreting something that we conveyed, we can't just keep doing interviews.
mm hmm
Now we have to, in the first interview, say, okay, let me make sure everyone understands this correctly.
hmm hmm
Then you got to do an op-ed piece. He could have done an op-ed piece in the Essence magazine back then or Jet.
hmm
There's so many chances that he could have said, we're not even talking about non-blacks, but
Yeah.
let's make sure our
Our people,
understand
right?
what I'm conveying.
hmm
He waited 10 years, and his future publications were in pieces where he had chapters. It wasn't even a full book anymore, right?
hmm
So this is where we just have to understand the responsibility is also on the theorists, researchers to know when their support is coming from falsehoods. And
mm
that's still happening in 2024. So
Y-
I always want our people as Africans. around the world, and particularly those of us forced onto the Western Hemisphere and in USA. Be careful when talking down to our people about
Hmm.
interpretations of literature. Most humans don't read, number one,
Yeah.
but the problem is even more so for our people.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about increasing reading for our people, increasing reading families, so I always tell our people, don't fuss about books being banned in schools if y'all not reading anyway in the house.
Okay, okay, we are back. I had a technical difficulty on my end, but as you were saying, um, you were kind of going through, Van Sertima and the comment that you saw, and how not only it's not only up to the, I guess, the student, but the educator to, uh, hold their own self accountable and explain to the audience, where there may be errors. Also, you said you were
Mhm.
kind of going into, when it comes to our people and our reading habits,
Mhm.
how we shouldn't be so quick to, I guess, be real disparaging about those who may not understand certain theory. If you can just expound on that.
Yeah, so it's important to remember most people in general do not read,
Mm,
and that's around the world. And when looking at our people specifically, we're more inclined to not read even more. And it worsens every day with this social media. I keep telling
mm,
our people, do
mm,
not let the internet control you like that. So, this is also something to understand when I offer parents and family members books to read. A lot of people do not want to read, but they are outraged over banned books. So I explained this is a consistency we need to understand about our people
mm,
because schools and decision makers and politicians are not the ones to provide intellect to our people because we have origins of intellect, and intellect includes art, like Harold Cruz
mm,
explains.
mm,
Black art, Black artists are art intellectuals and scholars,
mm.
right?
Right, right.
So this is where we want our people to understand when we use art, artistic expression, even conversations, we can turn that into concepts, theories, research, and actions.
Mm,
Unfortunately, so many of our people depict our people as just talking
yeah, right.
without an understanding that literally when we talk about like qualitative data, you can also turn qualitative data into quantitative. You can turn these words into numbers, right?
Hmm.
So I always say, like it's participant observation research, or if you had a task, a group task force where people are just talking, listen to what people are saying and how you could just put it into some data.
Mm,
And that's important for our people because I always say never depict our people as just jibber jabbers.
right.
Because if we do that amongst each other, then we can't be shocked when decision makers in every part of our life and politicians, including our own people who are decision makers and politicians, think we're stupid, basically.
Mm,
So this is where the onus is on theorists and researchers to explain themselves. And if they know people are misinterpreting, they have to be like, okay, let me make sure I said this correctly for you to get what I'm conveying. Ivan Van Sertima and other people need to do op-ed pieces, explanations, all types of things instead of just enjoying a bestseller. And
mm,
I say that now in 2024.
hmm.
I always tell people you've got a bestseller book,
Yeah.
but have people actually read it beyond buying it? Number
Mm.
one. People who've read it, do they know what you're talking about? Number
Mm.
two,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And those are huge deals. And so it's two different things. One, the onus is on the theorists and the researchers on and the teachers to explain. And if their own people don't understand something, now you have to find a different way to explain it. Do not try to benefit from the confusion of the people. Like, don't use confusion for money,
Right, right,
because
right,
I consider that a scam.
right.
Now, I don't
No,
care who it is, it's a scam when people do that.
and it kind of reminds me of, so on he kind of got, I would say, his fame. I guess he had been doing the work before that, But he kind of no, actually, yeah, his books probably did, but his fame got boosted by being on Joe Rogan's podcast, and so the old white dude, Graham Hancock, that has the uh, some people say are some quacked out theories, and then he got the Netflix deal, and he has two seasons of his Ancient Apocalypse show. But what's funny about that is every time that a new season comes out, there are college professors on YouTube that are just debunking it all the way through, right? When it comes to what society seems to be socialized to gravitate to, it's why does it feel like the society as a whole, obviously, but why does it feel like what society, well, as we know it here in America, is more geared to gravitate towards things that would require an exceptional amount of proof, things that like these weird theories compared to just what the actual truth of the matter is. Like it has to be like, this exaggerated story and it just feels like, like because we've even seen our own begin to question the validity of, you know, our historical understanding of the transatlantic slave trade, right? Because it doesn't fit this fantastical idea of African origins. And so why do you think that, you know, seem to, especially nowadays, be more gravitated towards the things that are sensational compared to things that are founded in truth?
So I would say that's always been the case, but now
Mm,
it's perhaps worse because people quickly access this. Just like I said earlier,
hmm.
people are relying on internet social media. Those of us born before that existed, really, we unfortunately, many of us have fallen for that too, because I
Yeah.
tell people just because it's in a Google search. So now AI, I'm not a fan of AI. So now you can look up something on AI, on Google rather, or any other search engine, and AI will give you
Yeah, at the
a
top.
result, but
Hmm.
it is false.
Right,
A lot of people are
right,
not researching.
right,
I
right,
like y'all realize it's not a human being, number one.
right.
Number two, it's an entity that is oftentimes copying and pasting, which is why for students, we now have AI plagiarism software.
Mm,
So
hmm.
you can also find if you're using AI, because AI can get the information from anywhere. They could be copying it from a book and putting it onto paper
Right,
and giving
right.
you a solution for something you asked on an internet search
Hmm.
engine. It doesn't understand what you're conveying. It's a robot basically, right? So I would say humans really like things that are quick. You think about the Cliff Notes, the whole
Hmm.
origins of Cliff Notes, the origins of con artists in the first place, since the origins of humans for over 1 million years. That includes health scams. Like I always tell our people to stay away from health scammers since I
Ooh,
specialize in Black
hold on.
girls.
Before you even finish that, there
Hmm.
has seemed to be an influx of health scammers
Hmm.
in our community, especially, those who say that they're in the conscious community. And some of these things these theories that they have about health
Hmm.
make no sense whatsoever, but the people that follow them swear by them. And sometimes I'm just like, man, like, how did we get here?
Well, yeah. So when I'm interviewed to talk about blacks scamming blacks, I always explain that when we do publications, and we talk about this, people are mostly scammed by their own people. They're scammed
Yeah.
mostly by their own family, acquaintances, and all that. So it tends to be intra-racial within race scams, and that
Hmm.
includes health scams. It includes when you go into cities and you go into these places that say they're selling vitamins, and then you can go in there and you can find these huge bags of pills. Who knows what these things are?
Right.
Unfortunately, some people are buying it and some people are dying from it. I always use the example of Sebi. or CB.
Hmm.
And people get mad at me. So people who used to be cool with me, like on a hip hop level, now they stop liking me. I say, what y'all making money from that stock option or something? Good gracious. Just understand when he was sued, there came to an agreement that he and his family would no longer claim the falsehood that he has a cure for everything.
Right.
But they made that claim that they would not do that anymore because they already know that they passed that lie on to enough of our people. So
Hmm.
enough of our people were already passing that lie from generation to generation.
Right. Right.
So, and again, Sebi did not create CMOS and stuff like that. But he made the claim that he could cure everything.
Hmm. And
And
but a lot of people run with the idea that he won his court case.
oh gosh. Okay.
I know you heard
So this is where,
it.
since my background in criminal justice, I gotta just tell y'all, it's not like he was found not guilty.
Hmm.
They ruled it with that compromise that, okay, you better not make the claim again that you can cure everything.
Right, 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 right.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, because he could be brought back into a court of law if they started making that claim. So it's not that he was found not guilty. That's not how that happened. But again, his family, they already knew that they had already passed that exaggeration.
Hmm.
And this is where we always tell our people scamming and scammers include a little bit of fact and
Hmm.
exaggerations.
Right.
Like we talk about people who claim that they're starting schools, right? It sounded so good. Maybe you created a class. That class
Hmm.
was awesome. Now you're saying go start a school. Now you're gonna say you're starting a whole museum.
Hmm.
That's how it happens, right?
Hmm.
It's done to our people because even our own people recognize that our people are quick to talk about the government
Hmm. Hmm.
and all government
Because
entities.
we have like an inherent mistrust of the government, right?
I mean, and I will say, we know, I always tell our people, we need to be able to assess and evaluate everything. Like I
Yeah.
say, we talk about voting. I don't believe in voting across the line for everyone. I believe in voting across the aisle because they better learn how to collaborate, pay through our taxes, right?
Hmm.
No side has all the answers. I don't care what they tell you. No side has all the answers. Okay.
Hmm.
But both sides, and this again, Harold Cruz explained, do not rely on any politician because they have a role, but their role is not to rescue us.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So that's the development of our inner world that was explained by Booker T. Washington, Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Septima Clark, Ida B. Wells, Magdalena Walker, the list goes on and on and on. Developing our inner world, developing our people. But scammers realize that so many of our people are not taught that development by their own families.
Right.
A lot of our people are taught to believe anything.
Hmm.
And I've had this debate with our people over the years because some of our people would be like, well, we're ignorant. And I've had that debate with some of your listeners who be like, well, we are ignorant. I'm like, no, I don't call our people ignorant.
Hmm.
I don't believe in that
Right.
because that's a self-fulfilling prophecy in that sense.
Mm.
When
Hmm.
you say Black folks are ignorant, it's going into it saying that we don't come from a knowledgeable intellectual background.
Right.
Like we're
Right.
just an oppressed people.
Hmm.
We got here through oppression and we have not created anything
Hmm. I
for
agree.
thousands of years before we're forced here. We haven't created anything for centuries on Western Hemisphere, and particularly in USA. So I really don't want us to be depicted as ignorant.
Hmm.
So this is where when we're talking about scammers, you have to know it when you see it. And you and I clown the scammers, we
Yeah.
do. But the scammers have way more supporters than they have critiquers, or else they
They
would
sure
stop
do.
scamming. So this is also where the theory, research, the concepts, and all of it come into it. If our people become more and more known as being aware,
Hmm.
and this is one thing you and I've talked about this before, collecting books throughout your life, like I have a pile of books over here. Collecting books does not mean you're going to read everything.
Yeah. Hmm.
You're going to collect books throughout your life, and you might become 95 years old and be like, yo, I got this book 50 years ago and I ain't opened
Yeah.
it.
Yep. I have, that's funny that you say that. Like, that's how it is. I've had books that I knew I needed to get, but I I wasn't personally ready to read till like maybe 3 or 4 years down the line, right? Um, you mentioned something and I wanted to get your take on it because these are things that I've seen. We're talking about theory, but we're also talking about research behind the theory. And whenever we are looking at some of these scammers, it feels like because so one of the common things that I see with people who become fans of these scammers is I would rather trust a black man or I'd rather trust a black woman than somebody that went to the white man's college. And I'm like, yo, this it's that's not like what are we saying here? Are we trying to throw out all ideas of research methodology for somebody who hasn't shown proven any of the ideas or theories that they have, but simply because he's a black man and you are a black woman and you are a fan, like it feels like they become fans, have an emotional attachment to the
Mhm.
person. So there's no need to even look behind what they're saying and research what they're saying to see if it's true
Mhm.
because they already have a mistrust
Mhm.
with white people and anything and I guess they are associating higher education with
Mhm.
white people and so they're saying hey you might have you might have a PhD and have done this and this but I trust this person's research over here more because they feel the because you have a higher education that you just learn what the white man wanted you to learn. This is what I see with some people. What are your thoughts?
Number one,
Mhm.
Africans had universities
Absolutely.
before the Arab Muslim colonizers of
Hmm.
thousands of years and before the European colonizers. We had universities, we had laboratories, laboratory experiments, we had all of that. Part of, and some of our trailblazers have academic degrees, including terminal degrees. I This is an example of what I said earlier.
Hmm.
One of the distractions from our people having concepts, theories, research, and actions, meaning actually doing some stuff with all that work, one of the distractions are these side talks,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? I say critique everything. That's actually the foundation. That's what we call positivism. Positivism is you are conducting an analysis.
Hmm.
So when we talk about the people like in sociology, criminology, who are the fathers of positivism, quote unquote, it's this whole idea that you don't just like something because you like someone.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Like I use Du Bois's work and I critique it still.
Right.
I use Marcus Garvey's work and I critique it still. Marcus Garvey critiqued himself. And of course, I'm a UNIA member. Amy Jackie Garvey, she did much of the UNIA writings and Garvey writings. After he passed away, she took a turn that switched to a lot of viewpoints that would not be his viewpoints,
Mm.
by the way.
Hmm.
Her approach became different, including connecting with Du Bois,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which is interesting. So it's okay to appreciate all these different places where you find work and critique it.
Absolutely.
You don't have to believe something just because someone has a PhD.
You know what's funny like so and I agree 100%, right? I even critique things that I hold to be true or that I involve myself in, right? And I notice again, there's this emotional attachment to ideas where people think because you critique a thing, you are it is a sign that you have disdain toward that thing and you are trying to get rid of that thing. And that's but how do our how do our ideas continue to grow and develop and mature if we don't analyze and critique them, right?
Sure.
Like it as somebody who has years of research under her belt, right? you even have to read things that going in where you know you're probably not going to agree with, but you
Mhm.
need to understand the other side of the argument, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the foundations of knowledge. If you are someone who only reads, only learns something to which you personally agree, it means you don't know anything.
Mm,
And by the way, I always encourage our people to know some elders who've been doing this work for a long time.
hmm
They will tell you that their perspective in their 20s changed in their 30s, changed in their
hmm
40s, changed in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90, 100.
hmm hmm
Something they read when they were 20, 30 that seemed so black radical,
hmm
like go get them.
hmm
When they were in their 50s, 60s, they were like, that ain't work.
hmm Right.
And that's the key to true learning.
hmm
And this is one thing I tell our people when you join organizations that tell you that you got to have one mindset, one belief, one approach, one reading list. You can't critique the organization.
hmm
Then I tell people that's a cult mindset.
Oh
And
yeah.
our people for radicalism and change making work do not need cult mindset. We need something that's going to be evaluative, meaning you can do evaluations. You can say this is not working. It also means we integrate different approaches, as Harold Cruz explained. We create our own, but at the end of creating our own, we can integrate non-Black approaches. It doesn't mean you have to add everything, but you
hmm
can integrate bits and pieces. That's what he did. He never joined the American Communist Party again, but he integrated components of Marxism at the end of his economic political plan.
hmm
And so these are just examples of what it means to expand. And I really encourage our people to get outside of this adult popularity contest
Yeah.
where you got to be like the cool kid. And
Yeah.
I got this viewpoint and everyone agrees with me. And it's worsened because of social media, because now people want to be popular,
hmm
And I tell people, our people are not progressing that way though.
Right. Now,
Like,
let's kind of stay there for a second because I
mhm.
do feel like social media, like it just creates this echo chamber. Um, but and again, this need for people to become popular, famous, becoming possible influencer, even in so-called black radical and revolutionary spaces. And how I know, I see a lot of times it's not necessarily how I gauge sincerity, right? Because there are obviously sincere people online who are, trying to navigate those waters just like everybody else. It's always whenever I see though somebody who is has an idea, they are they have a big following, right? And somebody critiques or questions that idea, and their first thing is to block them. It's like, oh, so you have to be seen as infallible to your following. Like like you can't allow anyone to ever see, any type of flaw in your research, or maybe it's not even a flaw. Maybe you just missed something, right? And somebody's pointing it out. You can't allow people to see that because, again, you want to be deified. You want to be an influencer. And obviously, that's not what this is about, but you still have people that and go that route. And the reason I felt like they want to be influencers and they want to have that to be seen as such because the idea that somebody is critiquing anything of yours, even if it's done in a respectful manner, is seen as a personal attack.
But again, positivism is based on separating yourself from your work.
Mm,
It means that you create a concept, you create a theory, you
hmm
conduct research, and you can handle someone assessing your concept,
hmm
evaluating your theory. That's
hmm
part of when we talk about theoretical integration, theoretical construction, tear down a theory.
hmm
Here's Dr. Charles Tittle. I don't know if you can see this. Control balance
Control balance.
theory.
Yep.
Yeah. Um, It's blurring up the
Yeah.
background, like
Yeah.
control balance. But he was one of my mentors, and he still is one of my mentors. And he was my dissertation co-chair.
Hmm.
And we took his theory course.
Hmm.
And rest in peace, Charles. But
Rest in power.
Charles Tittle was way hardcore
Hmm.
in that theory course because
Hmm.
he wanted to teach us hardcore theories. What does it mean to construct? What does it mean for someone to tear your theory down and
Mm.
you better not frown, basically?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
That's something that's actually important to understand. You created this, but once you release it, you've released it.
Yeah.
Most theories that exist, you've never heard of. So when I teach theory courses, I tell my students, you can find a theory that was created 100 years ago and you've never heard of it, and no
Mm.
one's ever researched it.
Right.
And it still is a theory. Like we don't just because we disagree with something does not mean it disappears.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
positivism conveys that. Like I had this back and forth with someone who's not familiar with positivism. So he thought that just because Cesar Lombroso, if you understand Cesar Lombroso is one of the cores of the origins of criminology, which we used to call criminal anthropology
Hmm.
or crime anthropology. And the work that Cesar Lombroso did was one of the components of positivism in our work in criminology. What does it mean when you're talking about people's head shapes and skulls and all those things that might shape how they become deviant or criminal? Now, no matter how much research has debunked Cesar Lombroso's work, there are still hospitals that give him a shout out because he was a medical doctor.
Wow. Right.
There's still research and writings published in 2024 that say that this approach is coming back because now we have more and more people saying that there can be something about your genetics, something about your head shape, something about your demeanor that makes you more conducive to criminality.
Hmm.
So this is why we always tell people just because you critique something, just because something is refuted and disputed, it's not removed like that. I was going to do an
Yeah.
old hip hop
Yeah. You
lyric.
was about to spit some bars
I
already.
stopped myself. But yeah, we don't get rid of it like that. And that's
Mm.
positivism. So we always just tell people you can't be sensitive like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like when you go to conferences, at our conferences are hardcore sometimes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like don't come here doing a presentation and now you feel some type of way because people are gonna ask questions, they're gonna have critiques.
Hmm.
It's going to sometimes be the person who you cited their work in your work.
Hmm.
So they came before you and they're going to be like, you didn't cite my work correctly. Okay.
Mm. Right. Right.
This ain't no pillow talk.
Right.
So this is just where I want our people to prepare for that. It could sometimes seem kind of crass and like you kind of the boxing match kind of thing. But I always tell our people, think about it like a 5% of cipher.
Hmm.
It's productive because you know
Hmm.
when you all do ciphers, y'all might
Yeah,
be
it can get like
intense.
that. Yeah, it can get like that.
But it's for a larger purpose, like the
Mhm.
original form of Black Panther Party. They used to do debates in the original
Mhm.
form of Black Panther
Mhm.
Party when they tried to go too far in the left. They did debates because the whole idea was teaching each other how to go beyond the sensitivity, try to understand the pros and cons of these different approaches, and just learn how to get this going for our people, like
Mhm.
beyond oneself. Like you can be really passionate about your work, passionate about the concept you created, passionate about the theory and the research, but now you're wanting our people to help develop it. You're telling our people, don't just criticize it because you want to throw it in the trash.
Yeah, yeah,
Criticize it because you appreciate that it was created, even if you think it sucks.
yeah,
You
yeah,
appreciate
yeah,
one for
yeah,
time,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then say, here's how we can develop it more, or we can integrate it with something else.
Right.
And I do want to say a lot of times when we encourage our people to create concepts and theories, sometimes our people regurgitate what's already out there and they don't realize it.
Hmm.
So this is where reading needs to take place, going to the libraries.
Hmm.
Yes, there's some legitimate sources online, like full PDFs of books and articles that I share on shared Google Drives, but going to the library is very important because you don't want to present a concept, present a theory, but like, yo, this is it for our people. And
Yeah.
people are like, do you know like 50 years ago that that was presented by so and
Hmm.
so? So you do want to make sure our people are knowledgeable enough to know what's been out there already.
And so, what do you think about this idea? Because I mean, as we know, theories. and theories that have been put into practice have shaped our worlds for hundreds of years. And um, I noticed that a lot of people who, I guess, have a critique with not only me, but people that are in these media spaces or academia spaces or both, right? Is one thing that they say is, uh, man, I'm not worried about theory. Yeah, that's all y'all do is sit there and talk about theory all day. And I understand maybe the frustration of what they think because obviously our people are suffering, right? And some don't have their material conditions met. But the thing that I think that they are missing is the world that they see, the world that they want to change, the world that they know was created through the theories of Europeans. So I feel like it's a must we work out our own theories and begin to, put them into practice for our own lives. But what do you think about when people say, you're spending too much time worrying about theory, studying theory, critiquing theory? Like because again, that's a critique that I've even seen with people like of myself. They don't know what I do outside of the internet, but people on the internet feel like they know you, right? But well, what's your thoughts on that? That thing that hey, all you guys are all you do is just spend time studying theory, and at this point, studying theory is pointless.
Well, first of all, do they know your schedule? Like when people say you
Nah.
spend too much time,
Right,
I'm like,
right. Again,
y'all
do you
tripping.
know me, right?
You're tripping, They might be stalkers, but
Right.
I think that I think our people have a lot of distractions, and I think that's one of them. When our people announce you spend too much time doing this, instead of proving what they're spending their time doing there for.
Mm,
Okay, you think so and so spends too much time doing that. Now tell us what you spend your time doing.
right.
Besides, and you know me, I'm gonna say it,
Hmm.
besides complaining and announcing oppression,
Right.
because we're talking about solutions, right?
Hmm.
So, are you out there helping our people in some way? Then say that.
Hmm.
But understand that being out there helping our people also connects with the concept theory and research, because there's
Absolutely.
research conducted about that as well.
Absolutely.
You can even look at
Absolutely.
like E. Franklin Fraser's research that he
Hmm.
did. So the work that if they're doing work in the first place beyond telling you about yourself, that still connects with concepts, theories, and
Hmm.
research.
Hmm.
That's why we talk about in research methods, we talk about inductive and deductive,
Hmm.
inductive versus deductive. Are you starting off with the concepts, theories, and research? Or are you going to start off with the research and then you're going to get the observations and
Hmm.
then you're going to pull some concepts and theories from it?
Hmm.
So the people who are already out there doing the work, they're doing the approach where they can say, I'm already out there.
Yeah. Right.
Now they, though, have to show how they can pull some concepts and theories from that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because now they have to pass this down to our people.
Right.
And this has to be generation for the remainder of human existence. In other words, I don't want our people to think that we are reinventing something every generation.
Right.
Because
Right.
that means we're not learning
That
from
means and that
trailblazers.
means we have to start over every generation, you
People
know?
are starting over. Like, why are people mad that we're stuck in Black History Month? Well, we're stuck in Black History Month because, and for the same reason why people are still talking about Confederate monuments, and I'm from Richmond, VA, we're stuck there because our people insist on thinking that you're creating something new, but you're not teaching it to
Mm.
anyone else.
You know, one of the things that this is the conversations that I've had, right? And one of the things that I've heard people say is, so I had a thing to, like whenever I may be building about a subject, and somebody will say, they won't say it in an honest in an honest manner. It'll be facetious in nature, and they'll say, "Well, what's the solution?" Right? And so, um, so I begin to tell them, about obviously there's different approaches to the solutions of these issues depending on, maybe what your ideology is. But a lot of times, depending on what your ideology is, the solution lies within the framework of that ideology. And I think two things. I think it's become I think people kind of are trying go there, I guess, because they want an excuse to not do the intellectual work themselves, right? So they want to disparage anybody who they see doing so. And another thing that I saw that has been said to me is, you know, the young black man or young black woman out in the street don't care about no theory, right? And I feel like, and I feel like, first off, um, you kind of sound like white folks the way you describe our youth, as if none of them want to learn anything, right? Um, and this idea that, you know, young black youth don't want to understand the world around them, don't want to understand the position that we are in, how we got here, what some of the solutions are. I just don't buy that.
No, and so as you know, I talk about solutions all the time,
Right.
but I talk about it in the context of people who keep wanting to talk about the oppression instead
Hmm.
of talking about what they are contributing.
Hmm.
When people are talking about what they're contributing to help our people, I don't ever preach about solutions because they're already presenting solutions and contributing to that.
Yeah.
It's the people who want to remind us of the problems that I'm like, let's walk to the next door now. Let's open
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
next door, okay?
Hmm.
Okay, so people who are going to say things like, those of us on the street don't want to hear theories. Okay, well, then use different terminology. Like, this is basic understanding of
Hmm.
communication.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like, this is also old hip hop,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. The ability to take a concept
Yeah.
and make it to where anybody can understand it.
Like,
Make it
like,
sound fly, right?
like, you
Like that's
know,
what.
my top MCs, and you on the top list. I mean, most of y'all are 5% Muslim, and you would make references like you would have people who were not 5% or not Muslim making these like talking about, third eye, all this stuff.
Right, right, right,
That's an
right.
example, though, of
Mm,
presenting ideas and concepts to people who oftentimes are Christian and they run
mm,
around identifying as something they're not.
mm,
But that's an example of how you can really teach something.
right.
And some of our people started researching it
Mm,
to learn
mm,
what it means.
mm,
So this is why I tell our people this is basic communication style. If
mm,
you don't want to use the term theory,
mm.
then talk about ideas.
Yeah.
The same way when I do resource tables in communities in different cities and different states, I don't put mental illness on the table. I don't
Mm,
put suicide on the table. I don't put schizophrenia on the table. What I put on the table is Black stress.
mm,
Because our
mm.
people are quick to pick up information about being stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then, if they
Yeah.
contact me or they want help to find a Black therapist wherever they're located, then that's where they can get further into talking about other issues that they might have in their life.
Hmm.
But it's the stress that gets them,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Like organized confusion talked about.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's real. That's brilliant actually because it hits people on a different level of,
Mhm.
something that they can feel, something that they can relate to. And isn't that part of communication, being able to understand who that person is and relate the information to them in a way that, touches them in a way like, I had I was reading I just for the simple fact that there was so much fuss about it, and I'm a curious fella. I had to read the Ta-Nehisi Coates book, The Message,
Hmm.
and one thing that he said in there, um, because we're also obviously we're talking about theory, we're talking about words, speaking, ideas, and he said in the book that the goal of the writer is not to clarify, but it's to haunt. And he meant to to present the idea so well that you think about it right before you go to bed, or you think about it whenever you wake up. It's something that creates and lights a fire within you, and that is the job of the communicator. And so when people say, "Yo, the youth in the youth, the black youth don't care about none of that," right? Well, isn't it the job of the elders and the educators to light that fire, to,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? I
Yes.
think it was done for us, right?
Yes. And this is one thing that I always convey,
Hmm.
and it bothers some of our people. I love our elders.
Mm.
I respect our elders,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean that you should believe all of our elders.
Fact. That's a fact.
Because again, we're talking about falsehoods taught in families, collectives, and organizations
Hmm.
and religious groups
Hmm.
for centuries regarding race.
Hmm.
So there are people who hold on to some beliefs
Yeah.
and they teach that belief to everybody.
Mm.
And they think that belief is factual because it's a belief.
Yeah. And
And
they've had it for so long, it must
they've
be
had it
true,
so
right?
long. It includes conspiracy theories. I tell people, even when we're talking about religions, I mean, religions are based on a combination of a few facts
Hmm.
and stretching it all out into
Yeah,
some
yeah,
falsehoods,
right, right,
I mean, that's just,
right.
spiritualities and religions around the world since the origins of
Hmm.
humanity. But at the same time, sometimes you can exaggerate critiques to
Mm.
make it something that it's not.
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this is just where I tell our people, learn more. Because a lot of times, like I'll have people who say, well, I can't question that because grandma said, I look here, you can love your
Hmm.
grandma. And it doesn't mean they knew what they were talking about.
Right,
It
right.
doesn't mean they knew what they were talking about. Loving our people, loving our family, loving our culture.
Hmm.
And we can talk about this in terms of origins, and we're talking about thousands of years of potentially millions of African cultures. And then talking about our cultures as Blacks in USA. Loving this does not mean that it's immune to critiques. And our trailblazers
Mm.
have explained that.
Yeah,
Challenging each other.
yeah.
Challenging each other is like a battle rap because
Mhm.
people will be bothered by challenges because they just
Mhm.
think you got to coexist amongst falsehoods.
Right.
And then when the falsehoods fall on their back, you pretend that the oppressor knocked you on your back. No, Shawty, you knocked yourself in the back because
Mm.
you wanted to hold on to those falsehoods despite being encouraged,
Mhm.
even given information to
Mhm.
learn.
Right. Right.
Like I
Right.
tell our people, never wait for schools to teach you for real, for real. Families, communities, collectives teach.
Mhm.
And we bring knowledge into schools, and the schools add to the knowledge, but
Mhm.
they're not the ones who introduced us to knowledge.
Right. Right. Right.
So this is just where the onus is on us. And I just explained this, and this is election time. And I tell people I don't support political parties, but I do vote.
Mhm.
I just tell our people be informed, but do not, even if you're celebrating or even if you're mad at the outcome,
Mhm.
keep doing the work for our people.
Yeah.
Because
Because it
either
doesn't
way,
end at voting, right?
yeah,
You
either
know.
way, these
Mhm.
people don't have the solution. They're not rescuing you,
Mhm.
right? So that's just something to understand about what it means. And that goes into concepts, theories, and research as well, because these decision makers and politicians bank on Black people in particular not knowing, not, and this is across socioeconomic status. So even Blacks who are middle class,
Mhm.
they're accustomed to us just waiting for results
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
then like, woof, all right, child, good night.
Mhm.
And therefore, they don't present things like financial audits, evidence of where our taxes are spent, all that
Mhm.
stuff.
Well,
Why?
that's all I wanted to ask you is we're in election time. Couple of days, we'll know who the new president of the United States is. And through this election season, and we see the political ads, um, we've seen the entertainers on both sides, uh, you know, having pep rally type vibes at these political, I guess political rallies for. eh, But when it comes to again, when we're talking about ideas, theories, concepts, when it comes to people navigating these political waters and attempting to understand uh, each candidate, what the policies are that are on the table, what each candidate feels about, the policies that they care about. And I'm not just talking about, President of the United States, right? We're talking about on a local level as well. But whenever it comes to garnering support, politicians never obviously talk about concepts, ideas, theories for a better world. It's just, outlandish type of things that I guess catch people's attention. What do you suggest for those who want to be politically involved, politically educated, but, you know, obviously, I guess even navigating their own mistrust of politicians, right? Because we're African people in America, it's that's something that's just there. And but when people want to really understand what's happening politically and understand the ideas that may be shaping the world around them, what would you tell them to do as far as how to understand? Because there's so much misinformation that comes. There's corporate media that has agendas. There's conspiracy theory media that will
Mhm.
have you all on Mars somewhere, right? So
Mhm.
if they're out here trying to understand what's real and try to find what's real, what advice would you give them in order to kind of stay grounded in understanding what's happening, not from a corporate media standpoint, not from a conspiracy theory standpoint,
Yeah.
but for a black and white, what's on the table standpoint?
Yeah, so I don't watch news outlets. These
Hmm.
outlets are making billions of dollars
Mm.
from giving half accurate information. That's every news outlet.
Hmm.
So I encourage our people to wonder why they're watching that.
Hmm. That's a good question. Why are you watching?
Why are you watching that?
Right.
So that's one thing.
Hmm.
The other thing is I always tell our people, I'm not one of those vote or die people. I
Hmm.
don't disrespect our people who do not vote. Instead, I say if you choose not to vote, then contribute in another way because you're
Hmm.
still paying taxes.
Hmm.
So now you need to understand how that contributes to outcomes, which include the components of socialism, which are part of the capitalism, which are veterans benefits, SNAP, Social Security, and all that stuff, right?
Hmm.
So be active, be involved, and so I don't disrespect people. I don't say if you don't vote, I don't want to
Yeah.
hear your voice because I want to hear all of our people's voices in that
Yeah,
sense.
but we see that a lot too. And
Mhm.
I we've seen the invoking of Du Bois's speech in 56, or his essay about
Mhm.
why he wasn't going to vote, and I see
Mhm.
people attacking it, and I'm like you. I don't I don't I don't feel like it would be my place to attack that because I understand people's frustration.
Well, I'll say within as a people, we can debate with each other and
Hmm.
encourage each other to be active. The
Hmm.
problem is when people use outsiders' viewpoints.
Mm.
A lot of our people are using white liberal, white progressive, Marxist, communist, anarchist, whatever viewpoints, anti-fascist, whatever viewpoint they see, they're using that as a form of attacking their own people for not having this one approach.
Mm.
And this is why I encourage our people to understand the span of our people's approaches
Hmm.
that don't fit that model and learn how to collaborate and connect with our people who don't fit the model that they are subscribing to. Like if they insist on using like white liberals approaches and all that stuff, that's fine, but don't try to attach it to our people.
Now,
Like,
what about that? What about this idea that,
mhm,
you have these different organizations that have these different ideologies that have different theories that they are striving to put in practice.
mhm,
And many of these organizations, the way they view their ideas or their theories, they view it from a universal idea where this is a one size fits all and it's going to work for everybody.
yeah,
And if you are outside of, if you don't bear witness to it, or you are outside and you have a different theory, then,
mhm,
you know, again, you you're not really down for the cause like you say you are.
right.
And that's something that we see a lot.
Yes, which means that they fail at theoretical integration, by the
Mm,
way.
mm, mm,
Because if you know how to do theoretical integration and also theoretical critique, you know when something's not working. And usually the theories that they're using are not black theories in the first place. I mean, and I critique that all the time. Like if you're coming to me with Marxism, I'm going to say, have you learned something that existed long before Karl Marx and Frederick Engels were even born?
right.
And I'm a sociologist, and Marx was a sociologist. I
Hmm.
teach Karl Marx, and I tell my students, he did not create conflict theory. He did not create anti-capitalism. He put it all in one book,
Hmm. Hmm.
Communist
Hmm.
Manifesto.
Hmm.
And, I could do a whole entire hour
Oh,
discussion of that.
speaking of that, did you see
Mhm.
that guy, one of the writers for Jacobin magazine, say something like, read less Fanon, read more Marx? I was like, what?
Yeah. Um,
And he was white dude.
that's
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't care about. Here's the thing: when people think their opinions matter, it's based on this notion that they created the knowledge in the first place, right?
Right, right, right.
So this is where I just make it transparent and very obvious that I don't care about that opinion in the first place.
Hmm.
I tell our people I don't believe in our people being Marxists, communists, and so forth. You can integrate components of it if you insist, but understand that Karl Marx and them used Western Europe as the foundation. They did not think that Asians and indigenous and Africans were capable
Mm.
of anything, and they added Eastern Europe, but they added that because of what was proven to be successful. I just encourage our people to stop pulling on something that's popular. Some of our elders who've been doing this work for a long time will tell you what it looked like when they would go to Black radical events, even, during Black men being in the military, and they would come right back with the Communist Manifesto. Sometimes they won it in German because they could brag, good well they don't speak German. But it was like that was the vision of change making that they had at
Hmm.
that time.
Hmm.
But guess what? Change didn't happen.
Hmm.
This is when I want our people to understand the huge difference between popularity, like, ooh, attention, versus outcomes for our people specifically. And again, this is what I explained. This is also what Harold Cruz explained. That's why he left the American Communist Party. What is working? I also share with people the on my shared Google Drive, the book The God That Failed.
Mm. I haven't read that.
Yeah.
I need to check that out.
Um, People like Richard Wright, former Black communists, and other Black people who appreciated components of communism, but they never joined it.
Hmm.
So I say all that to say before some people try to lynch me from a tree somewhere, because some of our people really will lynch you on behalf of these non-Black concepts and approaches. Because I literally teach this because Marx was a sociologist. But I say all that to say that we can appreciate components, we can integrate components, but that can't be the rescuer for our people.
Yeah,
Because it
that's
literally is, yeah, it's a race neutral approach. Like they literally did not address racial variance.
I think that's what Dr. John Henry Clark was saying. Like, he was like, it's Johnny come lately. We were already dealing with communal societies? And I think that's a great question I think that's a question that a lot of leftists probably wouldn't be able to understand, wouldn't be able to answer. Like, can you talk about any African or indigenous concepts and ways of life before in the writings of Marx? And I'm not sure that many of them could. Um,
Well, I will
mhm,
just say that
mhm,
it's important to know that Karl Marx got paid to write about transatlantic slavery. He did not do that voluntarily. He got paid to do so. Of course, he died broke. It was, Frederick Engels' capitalism that helped pay for Marx. But he was paid to talk about transatlantic slavery, and he talked about it from an anti-capitalism standpoint. So he didn't talk about it from a true, this is the component of the creation of racial categories, how racial categories were used to still these Africans and everything that happened. So I want our people to just understand that they can be passionate about something,
mhm,
but when it comes to outcomes, the outcomes are still not there. So then what? So when it comes to election time, every election, local and national elections, read legislature, read all these materials. Don't just tell someone, just don't tell someone, just vote up and down for so and so.
mhm,
Research everyone.
mhm,
That's literally what you have access to, including the websites. It explains what everyone's going to do. All this information's out there. Even if someone signed legislation, does not mean legislation went into action. That's a
mhm,
huge deal. Like when you look at the White House website, they will tell you that these presidents signed all this legislation, but in terms of action and outcomes for our people,
mhm.
and you can look at it from like a William Julius Wilson standpoint of outcomes can help people of a certain social class, but if it helps, if you're talking about helping poor, working class, and middle class, there still has to be a trickle down effect for Black people as well.
Yeah.
Can't say it's helping middle class, but there's no evidence that it's helping Black middle class, Black poor working class. So this is just one thing I recommend. Research, read more, do not care what anyone else thinks about this popularity contest, and do not care, you don't have to tell anyone else for whom you're voting.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, that's true.
This is not, the playground. It's not playground on the playground,
Right.
ABC.
I
Playground.
caught it. I caught it.
Playground. But people think it's the playground. They really think that they have to impress people. They have to battle their family. And I tell Black folks in particular,
I see
if
that. I
you
see that happening a lot too.
yes, I tell them, if you really think these non-Blacks are literally shutting off their family members and friends who voted for so and so, like they tell you on TikTok,
They
you
lying.
are gullible.
Hmm. They lying.
Okay. They will tell you anything. And here you are abandoning your family, friendships, connections, people you've known for 50 years. If you know Black collectives, true Black collectives, like collectives of Black men, for example, they have different political views and they vote for different people.
Hmm.
They know not to share that information if it's a setting that people don't want to hear about it, right?
Yeah.
So I tell our people, don't be so quick to abandon people who vote for a certain person because someone else told you that they do that. If non-blacks tell you they do that, don't believe them. Okay. Because I'm tell you, that's not how it operates. That's not how they do wealth building. That's not how they do collaborations in their racial and ethnic groups, in their nations of origins groups. Instead, our people have to understand it's okay to disagree with for whom someone voted. Now, how are we going to collaborate and make this outcome work for us?
Mm.
Because every political party has problems. Every political party is anti-Black. Every political party thinks we're stupid and not paying attention, not doing follow-up requirements, not knowing concepts, theories, research, actions, not knowing financial audits to know where our taxes are going. Every political party does that. So now, if your friend or family member voted for so-and-so, you can disagree all day, but now for our people, what can we do to make this change making work happen? On social media, I posted about George Schuler, who was the first well-known Black conservative at that time. Most Black people have some, at least one conservative viewpoint.
Mm.
if you have enough conversations. But he was the first known Black conservative back then. And Ella Baker tried to do a collaboration with him. They
Oh
tried to
wow.
collaborate regarding cooperative economic development.
Wow.
It didn't succeed,
Hmm.
but that's an example of how Ella Baker tried to go against the
Yeah.
standard of collaboration.
Understood, understood. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, we talk about research methodologies, and people that are in academia, that's obviously something that they understand very well. But we want our people, even outside of academia, to have a basic understanding of research methodologies, how to vet sources, and things of that nature. Are there any specific approaches that you would, just kind of tell our people that would, be able to help them with their own research and in their everyday lives?
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for asking that.
Mhm,
So there are some libraries where people live that are doing, sometimes they'll talk about things like survey design. So sometimes libraries are doing free workshops.
mhm,
And
mhm,
especially if people in the communities are asking for that, you'll have nonprofits that are doing research. We have people in our community who are doing things like grant writing. They're
mhm,
getting paid to be grant writers,
mhm,
which means they know how to do research and they know how to do write-ups because there's research required to do follow-up and background data with grant writing. So I recommend some readings also. And I don't know if you can see the
No, I
readings.
can't see the books, but please
Ah,
recommend them because we love the books. We love
okay.
the.
All right. So the first one, like I said,
Mhm,
is contact the libraries or go to the library's website and see if they're doing any workshops on survey design.
mhm,
They also do like senior citizens workshops where they talk about how to use computers, so that's good help. Also, if you knew people in the community who are doing grant writing, do grant writing workshops. That's a big deal. Always remind our people that when we talk about different organizations that apply for grants, they apply for funding, they have to know how to do research because the RFP, which is the proposal for the grant, it requires oftentimes some numerical value. Like, what have you been working on? Who have you been reaching? And sometimes I'll ask for like demographic data, like who's represented in your population that you've been reaching. So those are examples of how our people see data every single day.
mhm,
Like the data is used for city design.
mhm,
It's used for banks giving loans to the horrible stores that our people keep patronizing, right?
mhm, mhm.
So we see this research. Now we just need to get better at knowing the research. It doesn't mean we have to be experts,
Yeah.
but we as a community, we can just do better at knowing the research, connecting with organizations, Black organizations in particular, in collaboration with non-Black organizations, and talk about how we can just build our knowledge because if everything seems impossible to us, then I tell people outsiders love when our people think that things are impossible.
Mhm.
They
Right.
love that. They want us, both sides of these political realms want our people to feel like
Yeah.
that we don't have any solutions, we don't have any resources,
So we'll
because
just be totally dependent on them.
yes, both sides consider themselves our savior, and that includes our people who are in line with both sides.
Yep.
And again, as Harold Cruz explains, they have a role, like Black political leaders, Black civil rights leaders play a role. He literally says that, but they're not the foundation. They're not the core. The core are Black artists who are Black intellectuals, Black scholars. Those are the core,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So some of the literature I'll just share real quick.
Hmm.
So Tolliver wrote the book Recovering Black Storytelling and Qualitative
Mm.
Research.
Hmm.
So it's called Recovering Black Storytelling and Qualitative Research. So that's an example of qualitative data. And there's some older books that you can find in libraries. This one is called Qualitative Methods in Family Research. So it's showing qualitative data. So if you do like a library search engine, do a search engine for qualitative data.
Hmm.
And here's a book here that I use, and this is a really old book. Like it's old hard copy book with a bunch of tabs in it. It's called Statistical Methods for Criminology and Criminal Justice. I think this is from like the year 2000. Now, this can be intimidating because it's got equations and it doesn't look fun. However, equations don't look fun. I'm like mathematicians love it.
Yeah.
But from a statistics point, you won't have to do the equations by hand. That's what we have statistical data analysis software now,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know.
Hmm.
So this is also where people can go to libraries and ask the libraries if they have any statistical data analysis software. Also, when I talk about crime data, we talk about the FBI.gov website because that's where you can find the Uniform Crime Report or UCR, and people can contact me if they want information about that. UCR data will show you how to download it. Everyone has access to it. It shows you how data is collected by every law enforcement agency across the
Mm.
nation and how it's represented on the FBI website.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
we have a different type of data reporting, which are surveys, and that's the NCVS or the National Crime Victimization Survey. And those are people who've actually been victimized by certain types of crimes. So you can actually find these if you do an internet search, go to the FBI website, look at Uniform Crime Report data, and I also provide this information to people who are curious because like let's say you want to do some research for your city, you know it's like high crime area.
Hmm.
But the sad part is you're talking about high crime in your area, but a lot of times the only data you can access is the data released by the police department. Trust me, you do not want to rely on the police department for data, right?
Hmm.
Because we always tell people data is going to be based on 911 calls, and also they rank the 911 calls and they categorize causes of death. Like someone can have multiple issues that led to their death, but it's the top ranked cause of death from the coroner's report, right?
Hmm.
So this is where people, instead of relying on police departments to possibly release information, they can also see if they can access this on the FBI website and see if it'll let them look at their state and their city possibly. We also have other writings, like we have the social theory book written by Charles Lemert. It's called Social Theory, the Multicultural, Global, and Classic Readings. And some of these books are wonderful because they don't just get us stuck in white people.
Yeah.
And when I say white people, I'm not just talking about white men. That includes, when we're talking about multiculturalism, it can't just be including white women as well. It's the full span of humans
Yeah. The
have
human
theories
family.
around
Right.
the world, right?
Hmm.
So this book is important because it has some CLR James in it, W.B. Du Bois.
Nice. Nice.
CLR James, his origins being Trinidadian, he admitted, he said, I'm Trinidadian, but I'm European. He said that. So
Mm.
he acknowledged the role that Europe has on where he's born and
Yeah.
raised and on
Hmm.
his work as well.
Right.
And of course, he still remained staunch in communist approaches as well. Some other work is the Criminological Theory book, and this is Cullen and Agnew, and Robert Agnew is very well known as well as a theorist in criminology, and we use the theory in criminology, criminal justice. I keep forgetting it blurs and you can't see it.
Yeah.
I just want y'all to see it. The book that I always use for criminology theory classes, I always use the Ronald Akers and Christine Sellers.
Hmm.
And Akers is really well known for theories as well. And this book is called Criminological Theories. So, and the last book I'm going to talk about is there's a book called The Women Founders of Sociology and Social Theory. So it's called The Women Founders of Sociology and Social Theory. So when you find some of these books, they'll talk about wonderful people such as Anna Julia Cooper, who was a Black woman sociologist. And she actually published her A Voice from the South before W.B. Du Bois's Souls of Black Folk.
Hmm.
They both attended the first ever Pan-African Conference.
Hmm.
And so it's rare to find our people represented in these theory and research
Yeah.
publications, but
Hmm.
some of these books that I just stated do have some of our people represented. And sometimes students are shocked because they've always heard about white men and then adding white women to be inclusive.
Hmm.
So when you add everyone else, it's still difficult to find like native, indigenous to Western Hemisphere people and Asian people in these books. So that's still something that authors are trying to work on.
Yeah.
when talking about theories and concepts. But for our people, I just encourage our people to just read more. And then if our people decide to do some publication, we would love for our people to do some writings on some theories and research that include more people
Mm.
who are not already in all these publications.
Right, right, absolutely, absolutely. Um, I appreciate, the build as always and the information. We also love when books get mentioned that we start putting them in our cart. And so again, I always appreciate the time and just the ideas and the things that you give us to think about and study some more. So as always, I definitely appreciate you coming through Wise the Doom.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
No problem. And you have a great night and until next time.
Peace.
Peace.